afforded breathtaking views of the Capitol Dome. The law firm Jones Day occupied the building. Founded in 1893 in Cleveland, it had grown into one of the planet's largest legal machines, with thousands of attorneys spread across dozens of offices in the U.S. and overseas. Cleveland had long since faded as a locus of power, which these days resided in Washington. There was no clearer sign of that shift than the men who were being honored this January night. These were the lawyers who were leaving Jones Day to join the new Trump administration, where they would exert tremendous sway over the course of national events. Jones Day's leader was a headstrong, bulldog-faced attorney named Steve Brogan. He was a religious man and the son of a New York City cop, and after faith and family, the law firm was his life. Brogan loved Jones Day, and he wielded unfettered power. He controlled who Jones Day hired, how much employees were paid, where the firm opened offices, and even who would succeed him as managing partner. Technically, there were a pair of committees that could overrule such decisions, but they had never done so. Brogan was king, or, as more than a few of his colleagues described him, the Godfather. Brogan very much liked the Acacia. That is one great building, he had gushed shortly after signing the lease. Jones Day beat out the Securities and Exchange Commission, which also had been eyeing the location. Brogan ensconced himself in a suite so palatial that a colleague warned him that it would create the impression that Brogan viewed himself as emperor, not a member of a partnership. Brogan kept the office. Soon after Brogan took over the firm in 2003, Jones Day had set out to greatly enlarge its ranks of Washington lawyers, in keeping with the firm's and the industry's governing principle over the past few decades, which boiled down to more lawyers, more offices, more clients, more money, more power. Thanks to those wonderfully high ceilings, though, there wasn't space in the Acacia to cram in many more lawyers. In 2004, architects and engineers proposed leveling a neighboring parking garage to make way for a gleaming 12-story office annex. It would be connected to the Acacia by a triangular, glass-enclosed atrium and a series of translucent skywalks etched with the names of cities in which Jones Day operated. The plans called for a zoning variance that would allow the new structure to exceed the area's 110-foot height limit by at least 20 feet. This was when the problems began. Law enforcement agencies, still skittish after 9/11, warned that the roof was so high that it could provide snipers with an ideal nest from which to pick off senators. The building's developers didn't deny that gunmen would have a clear line of sight onto the Capitol grounds. Instead, they pointed out that there were plenty of other nearby sites that also would be suitable for assassination attempts. This was a less than persuasive argument. Surely creating additional platforms for snipers was undesirable, even if other options existed. But D.C. zoning bodies approved the plans. Yet the Capitol Police kept pressing their case. They appealed to individual senators, who the cops emphasized were the ones who might find themselves in the crosshairs of a rifleman perched on the roof of this sleek new mini skyscraper. Not surprisingly, senators didn't like the sound of that. In June 2005, the chamber approved a measure that essentially blocked the building's construction. Jones Day's lawyers thought this was an overreaction. "We were told at the time that there were only 2 sharpshooters in the entire U.S. military who were capable of making that shot," Ray Willichek, a Jones Day partner who was responsible for handling the firm's leases, told me. He added that Jones Day didn't plan to lease the top floors of the new building and therefore had no dog in this fight. The building's developers, however, cited Jones Day's desire for more space as the reason for the requested zoning variance. In any case, the developers were outflanked and had to back down. The proposed building's top floors were lopped off. Construction finally got underway in 2008, and the finished campus became an appealing synthesis of old and new. Exposed yellow piping accented the stone and steel. All-glass elevators glided through the skylit atrium. Yet the delayed and downsized building, a product of a defeat at the hands of the political establishment, was a diminished monument to its primary occupant. Over the next decade, Jones Day underwent a remarkable metamorphosis that ensured it would no longer lurk on the outside of that establishment, peering in.